Mainline Mario games are often very simple. In just about every one of them, Bowser is up to no good. Maybe he's kidnapped Princess Peach yet again. Maybe he's been capturing the Sprixie princesses. Maybe he's terrorizing the Flower Kingdom. Whatever the case, we need to put a stop to it. Maybe there are new characters that join or oppose us on our quest, like Yoshi, or Bowser Jr., or Rosalina. Maybe the setting is new. Maybe there are new power-ups and abilities. It's practically guaranteed that you'll have some fun. But what if you want something new? Well, there are plenty of spin-offs too if you're in the mood for a kart racing game featuring the Mario crew, or a sports game with a Mario twist. But what if you want something deeper? What if you want a grand adventure full of deep mechanics, unique characters and set pieces, and a story worth remembering? That's where the Mario RPGs come in. These games take you on these grand adventures. They're packed full of unique charm and brand new characters that expand the world of Mario. They give depth to previously existing characters like Luigi, Peach, and Bowser. They have action-packed turn-based battles that test your strategic and mechanical skill. These games really shake up the Mario formula. Most of the time, Bowser isn't the main villain. Instead, a new antagonist gets their time in the spotlight, with Bowser playing the role of an ally or a minor antagonist, or even one of the main characters. These games frequently take you outside of the main Mushroom Kingdom, too. Maybe you'll be spending your time in Rogueport, or Flipside, Pillow Island, the Bean Bean Kingdom, or some other new location. If Mario games often leave you wanting more story, more creativity, and more character, these are the games for you. There are 3 main Mario RPG series: Super Mario RPG, the Paper Mario series, and the Mario and Luigi series. Each series is different from the others, and it may be hard to know which game you'll click with the most, so let's go through them all, starting from the very beginning. Super Mario RPG came out for the Super Nintendo in 1996. It was developed by Squaresoft, now known as Square Enix. Square developed some of the best and most iconic RPGs from the Super Nintendo era, including Final Fantasy VI, Chrono Trigger, Secret of Mana, the Saga series, Live Alive, and more. You might also know them from later games like Final Fantasy VII, Xenogears, and Kingdom Hearts. Super Mario RPG is one of their last and best for the system, and it started it all off strong. Exploration is largely handled the same way it is in their other games, with towns, field areas, and dungeons being separated by a world map. There is some Mario flavor added in there, though. The world map is similar to the kind you would see in the mainline side-scrolling Mario games of the time. The level design is built like a Mario platformer, with pipes that lead to new areas, blocks that you can hit to obtain items, and platforming challenges galore. The combat is pretty good too. It's similar to other traditional turn-based RPGs, but it's got some unique things to call its own. Menus are streamlined. Each of the face buttons will open up a specific set of commands, making combat a little faster and straightforward. One of the most important parts of this game's battle system, though, is the timed hits mechanic. For most normal and special moves, your attacks will be more effective if you press a particular button at the right time. This mechanic extends to defending yourself from enemy attacks as well. It adds a layer of mechanical skill and player interaction that simply isn't there in most turn-based RPGs. The timed hits system is so good that just about every other Mario RPG has something like it. Other popular games such as The Legend of Dragoon and this year's indie hit Sea of Stars have also used similar mechanics. It's overall a very important part of this game's identity and makes the otherwise relatively simple battle system very satisfying. The story is also relatively simple, but it's full of charming and unique characters that have solidified themselves as fan favorites despite only appearing in this one game. If you've heard about that Geno guy that people want in Smash, he's from this game. He may not be the main character, but he's so unique, and that led to his incredible popularity over the years. There are other memorable characters too. Mallow is the other main new one. He's a Nimbus, or cloud person, that was raised by a frog, and he spent his entire life up to this point thinking that he was also a frog. He's not quite as popular as Geno, but he's still a beloved character, and he has some pretty good character development too. The other main party members are Mario, Peach, and Bowser. The game initially starts in Bowser's castle with the standard Bowser kidnaps Peach plot, but after Bowser is defeated, the castle is suddenly attacked and taken over by a group called the Smithy Gang. The group is separated, but eventually Mario, Geno, and Mallow manage to catch up with the other two, and they all work together to take down the Smithy Gang for good and restore the legendary Star Road. I also have to mention the music. It was composed by video game music legend Yoko Shimomura. You may know her from her work on games like Street Fighter II, Parasite Eve, Legend of Mana, Kingdom Hearts, the first Xenoblade Chronicles, Final Fantasy XV, the Super Smash Bros. Series, and even some other Mario games that we'll talk about later. She's done a lot of great work. This game's soundtrack is absolutely iconic and one of her most popular. There is a high chance that you've heard it before, even if you know nothing about the game. The song Beware the Forest's Mushrooms in particular is a fan favorite and a joy to listen to. So, where can you play this game? It was obviously originally released for the Super Nintendo, but not in Europe, and it's not very likely that you'll be able to get your hands on a physical copy. The game was later released for the Wii and Wii U Virtual Console services, but those versions are impossible to obtain at this point, unfortunately. The game was also on the Super Nintendo Classic plug-and-play system, but I don't know how likely it is for anybody to come across one of those for a reasonable price these days. The game is getting a remake for the Switch though, and that will probably be the best way to play it. Everything has been remade from the ground up in full 3D, and it looks beautiful. Some new mechanics have been added to spice battles up. There are now post-game boss rematches in a style similar to those seen in other Square Enix games, and there's also an optional easy mode. The music has all been redone and it sounds great, and it looks like there will be a way to turn off some of these additions if you want a classic experience. I'm definitely looking forward to playing this version when it comes out. It is unfortunate that the original is virtually impossible to obtain officially these days, but it's great that we'll have a good way to experience this game soon. Shortly after this game initially came out, Square had moved on to the PlayStation and had basically stopped making games for Nintendo consoles completely. There wasn't really any hope for a follow-up to this game, and it wasn't likely that it would have been any good without Square. However, a successor did come eventually. Kind of. Tentatively titled Super Mario RPG 2, Paper Mario, also known as Mario Story in Japan, was released for the Nintendo 64 in 2001. It began a long-running Mario series that's still going strong today. Paper Mario was one of the only good RPGs for the console. It was developed by Intelligent Systems, who you may know as the developers of Fire Emblem, the Famicom and Advance Wars series, and WarioWare, among other things. The most striking thing about Paper Mario is probably its visual style. Most 3D games on the Nintendo 64 haven't aged super well in the graphics department. Paper Mario, on the other hand, goes for a different approach and it really works. Most characters and some objects are actually 2D sprites, while the world is rendered in 3D. The whole game looks like a pop-up book and it's really nice. The story isn't quite as unique as it is in Super Mario RPG, but it's still pretty good. It begins with Mario and Luigi being invited to a party at Princess Peach's castle, which is then interrupted by Bowser. He flies the castle high above the clouds and uses the stolen legendary Star Rod to defeat Mario and send him back to the surface. Bowser has captured each of the 7 honorable star spirits, and they're being held by his minions all across the Mushroom Kingdom. The game is divided into chapters, each with unique characters, new locations, and an episodic story that eventually culminates in the rescue of one of the 7 star spirits. The gameplay has a few things that set this game apart from its contemporaries. One thing is the partner system. Rather than having multiple main playable characters like other RPGs, you only really play as Mario himself for the majority of the game. He is accompanied by one of several different partner characters that have special field and combat abilities of their own that will help you bypass obstacles, find secrets, and win battles. Party members don't level up in a traditional sense, and you can't get equipment for them. Instead, you can find special blocks hidden throughout the world that allow you to upgrade the damage that they do and unlock new attacks for them. Another mechanic exclusive to this game is the badge system. In other RPGs, you can equip armor, accessories, and new weapons to your characters in order to make them stronger. In Paper Mario, on the other hand, you can obtain unique badges by trading star pieces, buying them at the badge shop, or exploring. Each badge has its own effect. Some increase your stats, others allow you to use new moves. Some improve your overworld movement or help you find secrets. There are other effects too. Some increase the damage you deal at low health, or allow you to jump on spiked enemies. There are around 70 unique badges that you can combine in any way to customize Mario's playstyle to your liking, which allows for a lot of freedom and replay value. Speaking of the battle system, it is very good and takes a lot from Super Mario RPG while also doing its own thing. Mario has two main attack options, those being the jump and hammer commands. Your partner of choice also has a variety of moves, and each character can help support Mario while also doing their own solid damage. Timed hits also return and are expanded upon in the form of action commands. The game has a lot of unique expendable items that can do more than just restore health. This game also has a sort of magic system in the form of the Star Spirit abilities. For each of the 7 Star Spirits that you rescue, you gain a brand new move that can do a variety of things, from restoring a little bit of HP and FP, putting enemies to sleep, dealing significant damage to all enemies, or something else. This game also introduced the First Strike system. If you manage to hit an enemy in the field with a jump, a hammer, or a partner ability, that attack will be used at the start of battle before your turn, allowing you to deal greater damage. However, enemies can also do the same to you, so you have to be careful. Overall, the battle system is very strategic and fun, and it's one of the best parts of the game. Currently, the only way to officially play Paper Mario is through a physical copy or the Nintendo 64 app that comes with the Nintendo Switch Online expansion pack. This version has a few pretty annoying problems, but overall it's not a bad way to play the game, and I highly recommend giving it a shot if you think you might enjoy it. In 2004, a follow-up was released in the form of Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door. This one is a fan favorite and probably the most well-liked of all the RPGs. The story starts with Princess Peach getting her hands on a mysterious treasure map. She sends it to Mario and invites him to join her in the dangerous town of Rogueport, but she's kidnapped by the evil X-Nauts before he arrives. After more than a little bit of trouble with the locals, Mario sets off to try and save Peach, collect the 7 crystal stars, and uncover the secrets that lie beyond the titular Thousand-Year Door. The gameplay is largely pretty similar to the original, but there are quite a few important differences, mostly in the battle system. In addition to the normal guard mechanic that was in the first game, there is a new Super Guard move that allows you to avoid damage completely and deal damage back to the enemy at the cost of requiring practically frame-perfect timing. Partners are much more versatile in battle. They now have their own HP pools and can use items. There's also an audience system. The audience will charge up your star power whenever you land an attack on an enemy. If you press the A button at the right time during your attack, it will become a stylish move and the crowd will give you more star power. There are many more new and different mechanics, and they all add more strategy and depth to combat. I will say that the game isn't perfect. It's got a significant backtracking problem, and the level design is a significant downgrade compared to the original. Other than that though, it is a pretty great game, and there's a reason why it's a fan favorite to this day. At the moment, the only way to get this game is to buy a physical copy on GameCube. I was lucky enough to get one a few years ago, but its price has really spiked in recent years. Next year though, you'll be able to play this game on the Switch in the form of an amazing looking remake. I can't wait to play this version, and hopefully it does well and opens the path to a bright future for Paper Mario. Now, the rest of the Paper Mario games are different, to say the least. They each have a few mechanics taken from the first 2 games, but they technically aren't Mario RPGs. I still think it's worth mentioning them though, and I do really enjoy most of them even if I miss the classic structure. Super Paper Mario was released for the Wii in 2007. It has a completely different playstyle. It's more of a side-scrolling action-adventure game with a lot of platforming elements and the ability to level up, I guess. That's one of the only RPG elements in this game. Rather than having partners, you can find and recruit these companion characters called Pixels that each give you a special ability that will help you in real-time combat or exploration. You can also switch to characters other than Mario, and they each have their own special abilities. Mario can change the 2D perspective to a 3D one to uncover secrets, find hidden enemies, and walk around obstacles. Peach has the ability to float with her parasol and hide under it to completely avoid damage. Luigi has a higher normal jump and the ability to charge up a ridiculous super jump. And Bowser has the ability to break combat in half and turn most battles into an absolute joke. That's really most of what you'll do in gameplay. It's not that deep or exciting, but it's fun enough. The story in this game, though. It really doesn't feel like a Mario game, but it's pretty good. The story starts with the Mario Brothers finding out that Peach has been kidnapped once again. They assume it was Bowser and confront him, but they find out that the one responsible was the villainous Count Bleck, who plans to use the group to destroy all worlds using a dark interdimensional hole called the Void. The group is separated, and it's up to Mario to find the others and collect the 8 pure hearts in order to prevent the Count from destroying the universe. As you progress through each of the worlds, the Void gets bigger and bigger. You progressively get more information about the main characters and villains that help make them much more interesting and sympathetic. The game has quite a bit of pretty dark lore too, and a number of very intense moments. I don't want to say much more because I legitimately think it's quite good and I would hate to spoil it. The game isn't without its normal lighthearted moments though. In the end, it does go a little too far from the standard Mario formula in some places, and the gameplay is pretty weak, but I think it's definitely worth experiencing. At the moment, the only way to officially play this game is by obtaining a physical copy. These don't seem to be too expensive at the moment, so the situation is much better than it is with the previous game, at least. Still, it would be nice to have a modern way of playing this game. Maybe after the remake of Thousand Year Door comes out? In 2012, Paper Mario Sticker Star was unleashed to the world and it was not very good. You may have heard practically everybody say this, but I think Paper Mario Sticker Star is a pretty bad video game and I don't know if I want to talk about it in this video, but fine, I will. The story begins with Mario, Peach, and a bunch of nameless toads celebrating the Sticker Fest. Bowser comes in and touches the Sticker Comet. Chaos ensues, he kidnaps Peach, and the scene ends. Mario then meets a very annoying companion named Kirsty. The two set off to find the royal stickers and repair the Sticker Comet, and that's the story pretty much. Some chapters have some self-contained stories, but only a couple of those stories are any good. There's not really any depth. The writing isn't as good as the previous games either. Luigi and Bowser were some of the best parts of the previous Paper Mario games, but in this one they don't ever say anything. Kirsty is the only original character, and she's a pretty miserable one. Most levels in the game aren't very unique, and it just feels like a papercraft version of a new Super Mario Bros. Game. Overall, the story and creative direction are very lacking. The gameplay is also not good. Turn-based battles are back, but most strategy has been completely removed, and there are no rewards for fighting aside from coins and maybe a sticker or two. You attack exclusively using expendable sticker items. There is also a lame battle roulette thing that lets you use more stickers per turn depending on what you end up rolling, which you can cheat if you decide to spend coins on it. You can't equip badges or anything like that. You can't even pick which enemy you want to attack. Since there are no real rewards for fighting, it just feels like a miserable waste of resources. Imagine Breath of the Wild's durability system, but all your weapons are guaranteed to break permanently after a single use. That's this game. It's terrible. Outside of combat, the gameplay isn't much better. Many levels require you to play them multiple times to unlock a secret exit, and there are next to no shortcuts. You'll often have to backtrack to a random level to find a specific sticker that you need to use at a random and specific time to make progress or defeat a boss, and there's no way around this. Don't play this game. Instead, I would recommend that you play Paper Mario Color Splash, which was released for the Wii U in 2016. It is a significant improvement over the previous game. There are still some problems. Combat is still pretty bad and pointless, but you do get some extra rewards, and the paint system adds a little bit of strategy and depth. There are still some annoying moments of arbitrary backtracking for thing cards, but as far as I remember, the items in question usually aren't too far away or hard to find. However, the rest of the game is definitely much better. The story isn't anything deep, but at least it's not the most basic Mario plot ever. It begins with Mario receiving the lifeless body of a colorless Toad in the mail. He and Peach decide to head to Prism Island, the source of the disturbing letter. They find that a bunch of shy guys with straws have been sucking away much of the island's paint, leaving everything in chaos and many Toads suffering the same condition as the one in the mail. Mario finds a sentient paint bucket named Huey, who grants him the power to restore the island's paint and revive all of the colorless Toads. The writing in this game is much better. It's legitimately very funny a lot of the time, which may be a problem for some, but I prefer this to being dull and boring like Sticker Star was. The levels are also much more creative and memorable, and there are some sections that I still look back on fondly. Huey is so much better than Kirsty could ever hope to be. He's unfortunately also the only original character in this game, but at least he's good. The presentation in this game is pretty great. The papercraft aesthetic is absolutely beautiful in HD. The music is also really good, and there's some great tracks in here. I just think that this game is overall pretty nice, even if it's not what anybody really wanted from this series. The only way to officially play this game is also to get a physical copy, now that the Wii U eShop has unfortunately been shut down. Prices seem to be rising, so I hope a port comes someday. This game is quite divisive though, so I don't know if that will ever happen. The last of the quote-unquote modern trilogy is Paper Mario: The Origami King, which was released for the Switch in 2020. It's an improvement over its predecessor in a number of ways, but there are still some parts of the game that keep the community divided. Overall, the story is much better, and I'd say it's almost back up to the standard of the first 3 games. After being invited to Peach's castle, Mario finds out that a mysterious man named King Ollie has taken over the Mushroom Kingdom and has turned Peach and a large number of Bowser's minions into origami, effectively brainwashing them. Mario meets up with Ollie's sister Olivia, and the two escape from the castle with Bowser and set out to find out how to stop Ollie. Olivia is definitely the best of the companion characters in the modern Paper Mario trilogy. She has more personality and depth than the other two, and she still manages to be pretty likable. There are also a handful of other original characters too, although it's worth pointing out that hardly any of them have original character designs for some reason. The game is pretty similar to Color Splash in how wacky and goofy it can be, but it does sometimes take time to get more serious. There's one moment in particular that stands up, but I probably shouldn't talk about it. I find the gameplay to be a massive improvement from the previous 2 games. I will admit that the combat is still kind of pointless, but the battle system is very fun and satisfying. Rather than the game practically playing itself, you're required to rotate the battle arena and line up enemies to effectively take them out. After they're lined up, you can choose to use a normal jump and hammer attack, an item, or an upgraded weapon attack. The stupid expendable attack system is pretty much gone. The extra weapons do break after a while, but they're easily replaceable and you can still fall back on your normal attacks. It's much better than Color Splash and Sticker Star. Boss battles play out a little differently. Rather than lining up enemies to effectively defeat them in one turn, you line up these panels that will allow you to move closer to the boss. You'll want to take your end position into consideration to deal the most damage to the boss and move on to the next phase. You'll also want to think about the items you could get along the way, as you might be able to use 2 actions on that turn, or deal double damage, or heal yourself, and take advantage of other effects. There's some real strategy, and the time limit makes fights very intense. I understand that not everybody really vibes with this battle system. It does take a lot of getting used to, and it can be frustrating. It does also make combat encounters take longer than in any of the other games. However, I still think it's worth giving it a shot as long as you know what to expect. The exploration is also very fun, and quite possibly the best in the series. There are many collectibles to find, toads to save, pieces of equipment to gather, and bottomless pits to cover with confetti. There are even multiple parts in the story where you can use vehicles to explore, and the whole world is completely interconnected like the first two games. The presentation is just as good as it is in Color Splash, if not better. The music is also fantastic. There's so much variety, and it's definitely one of my favorite Mario soundtracks. The art direction is still amazing, and there is a lot of creativity. You can play Origami King officially on the Nintendo Switch and no other console. It's a relevant system though, so it shouldn't be hard to get your hands on the game. It may not be like the old games, but I think it's a pretty good one that's worth playing. The last main RPG series is Mario & Luigi. These games are awesome. Mario & Luigi's Superstar Saga was released for the Game Boy Advance in 2003. This one was developed by Alpha Dream. Their only previous games were pretty obscure and you probably haven't heard of them, but some of the team included people that used to work at Square, so having them develop a Mario RPG was definitely a good choice. This series definitely has the biggest focus on action compared to the others. During overworld gameplay, you control both Mario and Luigi at the same time, using many wacky special abilities to traverse the world and uncover secrets. Battles are definitely the best part of this game though, and the series as a whole has some of the most fun turn-based combat I've ever experienced. First strikes from Paper Mario make their return, allowing for the interconnectivity between exploration and battle that those games had. In battle, both of the brothers have normal jump and hammer attacks, just like in the Paper Mario games. Action commands make a return. However, the other parts of the battle system are where these games truly shine. Both brothers can use unique special moves called Bros attacks, and these are extremely fun. For these moves, you have to time a specific set of action commands perfectly to deal damage. When selecting an attack, you can pick one of 3 difficulty options. Picking a lower difficulty option will make the attack easier to pull off at the cost of more BP and less damage in some cases, so you're encouraged to learn how to pull off these moves at higher difficulties for their greater reward. You can even learn more advanced versions of each attack and deal even more damage. It's extremely satisfying. Another cool part of these games is the enemy phase. In most turn-based RPGs, including Paper Mario and Mario RPG, you don't have as much control over the damage that you take. You can defend or hope for your character to randomly dodge, maybe, but that might not always work and you'll still probably take some damage. In these games, however, you can freely use your jump and hammer attacks to evade enemies, deflect projectiles, and deal counterattack damage. It turns something as simple as an enemy attacking into a series-defining mechanic. It tests your pattern recognition and timing very well, and it gives you something extra to remember each enemy by. It's genius, and I think more games should try this. The story is very strange in this game. Princess Peach is visited by an ambassador that is apparently from the Bean Bean Kingdom, but they're actually villains who end up stealing her voice and replacing it with literal explosive vocabulary. Bowser, who is planning on kidnapping the princess, decides not to and flies to the Bean Bean Kingdom with Mario and Luigi to find the people that did this and restore Peach's real voice. After that, chaos ensues, the bros are separated from Bowser, and they both collaborate to traverse this wacky kingdom and solve its problems with the power of brotherhood, I guess. It's very silly and very fun, and there are a few crazy twists and turns along the way too. Once again, I have to mention the music. Yoko Shimomura returned to the Mario series with this game, and she went on to do all of the music for each of the future Mario and Luigi titles. The music is all very fun, very catchy, and very good. You can play this game on the GBA app if you have the Switch Online expansion pack. A remake was also made for the 3DS. It touches up the visuals and the music, changes some parts of the battle system to bring it closer to the later titles, and adds an honestly pretty bad extra story mode, but you don't have to play it. They also removed a few of the unique character designs that the original game had, and that's a little unfortunate, but overall, the remake is pretty good, and I think either version is a great way to experience this game. The next game in the series was Mario & Luigi Partners in Time for the DS. In this game, an alien race known as the Shroobs attacks and conquers the Mushroom Kingdom. In the future, Professor Egad invents a time machine and Princess Peach uses it to head to the past. However, when the time machine returns to the present, Peach is not there with a hostile Shroob standing in her place. After traveling through a time portal that just happened to show up in front of the castle and taking a little bit of a beating, the Mario Brothers join up with their younger selves and head out to find the princess and put a stop to the Shroob threat. The gameplay is similar to its predecessor, but different in many ways. In addition to controlling the main Mario Brothers, you control their past selves. You can either have the present versions carry them on their backs or separate them to solve puzzles. Otherwise, the exploration is very similar. Combat is also a little bit different. Normal attack commands like jumping and hammering require you to pull off slightly more complicated action commands to do more damage. The main difference is the way special moves are handled. Rather than spending BP to use them, you just use an expendable special move item, which is a little weird and also pretty broken. Partners in Time is a very weird game and not a lot of people really remember it, but it's a pretty good game. Unfortunately, now that the Wii U's eShop is down, the only official way to play the game is with a DS physical copy, and those aren't looking very cheap. After that came Mario & Luigi Bowser's Inside Story for the DS, and this is probably my favorite Mario RPG in general. It's also very weird. Many of the toads in the kingdom have been hit with a strange condition called the Blorbs, which causes those that are infected to swell up ridiculously. Princess Peach holds a meeting to try and get the situation under control, but Bowser shows up and puts it on hold. After being defeated by Mario once again, Bowser meets with a mysterious figure who turns out to be Fawful, one of the main villains from Superstar Saga. Fawful gives him a weird-looking mushroom that he claims will grant him the power to defeat Mario once and for all. He returns to Peach's castle and inhales everybody at the meeting before collapsing, leaving room for Fawful to take over the kingdom and turn everything into absolute chaos. The brothers wake up inside of Bowser's body and meet up with the new character Starlo. They then move forward with goals of finding everybody else who's been stranded inside of Bowser's body, escaping to the outside world, and trying to convince Bowser to help keep the kingdom safe while they do those things. I told you it was weird. The gameplay in this game is very satisfying. Exploration is actually pretty different. For most of the game, you control Bowser on the top screen with the standard isometric view from the other games, and the Mario Bros on the bottom screen with side-scrolling gameplay. You alternate between them depending on the situation, and both groups of characters can affect what happens on the other side. The combat is fantastic as usual. The Mario Brothers play similarly to how they do in the previous games, but that's not a bad thing. I think it's worth mentioning that the special moves in this game are very fun and satisfying to pull off. They have this chaotic minigame quality to them, and learning how to effectively use them feels amazing. Of course, the star of the show is definitely Bowser. Bowser has two main attack options. He can punch the enemy and breathe fire. He can also use an inhale move to steal items from enemies or let the Mario Brothers take care of them instead. He unlocks his special moves after saving a specific group of his minions, and most of these are controlled with the touchscreen. They're actually a lot of fun too, and just as satisfying as the Bros attacks. There is one major criticism that I have. The tutorials are incredibly annoying. There are too many of them, and it feels like they just don't trust the player enough to figure anything out for themselves. The rest of the game is fantastic though, so you're in for a treat once you make it past the tutorial phase. The game received a full remake for the 3DS in the year 2019, which ended up selling terribly and forcing Alpha Dream to file for bankruptcy. I haven't played the remake itself, but it doesn't look great. All of the music just sounds off, and I know the art style shift is a big turnoff for a lot of people. I really like the way the 3DS Mario and Luigi games look, so I'm not too upset about that, but it does feel like it's missing something. I've heard that the gameplay has been messed with a little bit. Some minigames are easier, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. There were quite a few of them in the original that were very frustrating, so that's fine. The frame rate has been halved though, which is pretty unfortunate. They also added another bad side story, which doesn't detract from the main game, but I don't know why they felt the need to do it again. One good thing that they apparently did was fixing the tutorial problem and adding a fast-forward feature to cutscenes. Again, I haven't played this version, so I don't know the specific details, but you'll probably spend less time dealing with pointless tutorials on 3DS. Overall, you'll probably have a good time with either version, but the original might be better. The DS version hasn't been re-released, and physical copy prices aren't looking too good, unfortunately. The remake on 3DS doesn't look too expensive at the moment, but that might change in the future. I don't know. I hope this game is brought to a modern system because I think it's one of the best Mario games ever made and more people should be able to play it, but with Alpha Dream gone, I don't know if that will happen. The next game was Mario & Luigi Dream Team for the 3DS. This game follows the Mario crew as they take a vacation on Pillow Island. After Luigi falls asleep on a strange pillow, a portal to the dream world opens up and Peach is taken by a mysterious dark figure. Mario and the dream world version of Luigi follow and try to save her, but the figure escapes and Mario is forced to return to the real world. The pillow turns out to be the imprisoned Prince Dreambird, who the brothers are able to free. The three of them, and also Starlo, set out to free the rest of the Pillow people that have been imprisoned, save Peach yet again, and stop the Bat King Antasma from conquering the world. The gameplay is good, as usual. Exploration in the real world is the same as in the other games. The main addition is the Dream World. In certain spots, Luigi can take a nap and open up a portal that will take Mario to the Dream World. There, he can team up with Dreamy Luigi and explore the two-dimensional world by manipulating the environment with Luigi in the real world. Combat is also quite similar in the real world. It's pretty different in the Dream World, though. Rather than teaming up separately, Mario mostly fights by himself with Luigi as a support. When you land a successful action command, Dreamy Luigi will clone himself and do a lot of area of effect damage. The special attacks in the Dream World also involve the Luigi clones, and they're pretty insane. Unfortunately, the tutorial problem from the previous game is back with a vengeance, and it's arguably worse here. There's no fast-forward option for dialogue, and you usually can't skip them. This is a very big problem in an otherwise great game. The art style is very different from the previous games. Some prefer the old games, but I think this one looks really good. Most characters are these super charming 2D sprites, while the world and most objects are in 3D. It's reminiscent of the original Paper Mario and other games like Xenogears. The whole world is full of vibrant colors and creativity, and I just love the way it looks. Of course, the music is also as good as usual, and it might be the best soundtrack in the series. The game is only on 3DS at the moment, unfortunately. The last real new Mario RPG as of this video's recording is Mario & Luigi Paper Jam. It's a crossover between both of the main Mario RPG series. It sounds amazing, right? It's actually pretty underwhelming. The story is mostly the same as your average new Super Mario Bros. Game, and the world is very dull. There are no new characters in this game, and it overall somehow manages to be less inspired and unique than Sticker Star, and that is saying something. The gameplay, at least, is fantastic and possibly the best in the series. You control both of the Mario Brothers as usual, but Paper Mario also joins up and brings a whole host of new abilities with him. There's this awesome new dash move too, and it makes movement incredibly satisfying and quick. The Mario Brothers also fight the exact same way they do in other games, but Paper Mario makes things pretty interesting. He can create up to 10 copies of himself depending on what upgrades and equipment you've given him, and these will increase the damage he deals and improve his normal attacks. He also has his own team attacks that are more powerful than the others. His addition to combat also makes avoiding attacks more interesting. During the enemy phase of some boss fights, he'll fold himself up into a number of different objects to help Mario and Luigi avoid being hit. These sections translate the fun of his special moves to the enemy attack phases, and successfully avoiding damage and counterattacking feels really good. The game is pretty easy and the story and world are pretty boring, but it's still a very fun game, and I somehow managed to put 60 hours into it when I finished it earlier this year. Just like Dream Team, it's only on 3DS at the moment. And that's everything. There are no more Mario RPGs. Some might count the Mario plus Rabbids games, and those definitely do scratch a similar itch, but they're tactics games in the style of XCOM, while the games I talked about are all normal turn-based RPGs. They're definitely worth checking out though. So where should you start? I don't know, but I have a few recommendations. Play the original Paper Mario before Thousand Year Door, play the first 3 Mario and Luigi games in release order, and do not play Sticker Star. Thousand Year Door makes a lot of changes to the original game's battle system, and it sort of expects you to have played that one already, so it improves both games to play in release order. With 64, you won't be missing the extra mechanics from the sequel, and with Thousand Year Door, you'll understand the base mechanics better. With Mario and Luigi, playing in release order is mainly important for story reasons. You'll appreciate the main story of Bowser's Inside Story more if you played through Superstar Saga first, and while Partners in Time isn't all that important to the main story, there is one particular boss fight in Bowser's Inside Story that will be made more interesting if you played the previous game. And then with Sticker Star, it's just not a very good video game, so you don't need to play it. Really though, you can just pick whichever game is most interesting to you and play that one first. The order doesn't really matter all that much. That's really all I have to say. Mario RPGs are all really awesome, and they finally seem to be having a resurgence with these remakes coming out. I hope these games bring in many new players and make more awesome RPGs possible. And I hope that if you decide to play these games for the first time, you have a great time just as I did.